Hello and welcome to the Selfishly podcast. My name is Seb or Sebastian Corvey. I still haven't decided what to say. Anyways, welcome to the lockdown editions of the Selfishly podcast. It's been a while. Now, I've been having a weird time in lockdown, like I'm sure everyone has, and went through a period of being lazy and not being lazy and then being lazy, and it's just all a cycle and I'm dealing with it. But now that I've gone back into lockdown and as an excuse to reach out to my friends and talk to people and start recording more podcasts, and it's a bit different now because we are in lockdown and I was mainly just wanting to record the podcast in person with the people, but obviously now things are different, so now I've decided to just record online, and so things are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be some technical difficulties sometime, but bear with us. It's all just for fun, trying to work through it and figure it out, but it's good. The content is still good, and I'm so excited to finally get on to today's podcast. For episode 10, we have Myra Davidson. Now, I went to uni with Myra, and she's a really good friend. We had a good time bonding in Malaysia and in uni, and just, it was a great time. And she's actually a dancer now, and I just get to pick her brain because I've always secretly been jealous of dancers because my body just does not move that way. But anyways, it's a really good podcast. We go all in talking about dancing, what it's like being a dancer during lockdown and what it's like studying. We talk about having a certain energy flow while performing and the industry from her perspective and all these different little things. It's really interesting. But anyways, the podcast is so good. Can't wait for you guys to hear it. So take it away, me. I'm here with Myra Davidson, my lovely friend. We met 4 years ago, which...
5 years ago, actually, 2015. We graduated in 2016.
Oh my gosh, yes, true. 5 years. But before we get into all of that fun stuff, and I know we've already been talking, but how have you been going?
And we're just studying from home and working a very, very small amount in retail. So just like trying to keep motivated throughout the lockdown and yeah, just like seeing how we go.
Yeah, oh gosh. For context, it's the mid-July, 24th of July. Melbourne has just gone back into lockdown, harder restrictions after letting them up. So we're all staying home, and I kind of do want to talk about it, but at the same time, there's other things to talk about that are more interesting than lockdown and stuff, you know? Like,
Yeah.
sure there's more like credible people to like tell you off about wearing masks than me. Yeah. Scientists. But in saying that, people don't listen to scientists anymore, so I don't know what's happening. But if you don't listen to scientists, listen to us. Wear a mask. It's just better for everyone. That's it. That's
End of discussion.
so well, good. I'm glad you're doing good though. Before lockdown, before this whole era, COVID existed. 5 years ago, we met at photography college.
Yeah, we did.
Did you just stumble across it? Did you already know about it and want to go there? Were you always wanting to be a photographer and get into photography and when that's
Yeah. Well, short answer, no. I pretty much my whole life, like ever since I was really, really tiny, I grew up around music, and I started dance classes when I was 4, all that kind of thing. So, and then all through primary school and high school, I was still doing dance classes and singing lessons and acting lessons and all that kind of thing. And then, so that was the goal. And then in year 12, I think I had a bit of a crisis and was this is not, I've always been a very anxious and shy kind of person. So
yeah,
I think I just had a crisis and was this is not for me. I can't do it. I'm not strong enough. I'm never going to make it, So I just was gave up on that dream for a minute. And I realized I'd been taking photos of all of my friends and everything that had been happening during year 12. So I was why don't I give this a go? So I applied and had my interview at ASC and had no other options. Took the other option was the schools that I wanted to go to. Um, and then I got in and I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing now. Um,
Yeah.
and I loved it. Like I really did love it, and I got a lot out of it, including like meeting you and Sonia and
Yeah.
Emma and all of our amazing like teachers, and I learned so much.
Yeah.
But at this point in my life, um, if I never pick up a camera again, like I'll be okay.
Damn, I do real damn. No, I mean, how did you like? Well, I suppose how did you get to this point now of like you had decided to do photography and commit to the course, and then now get to the point where you can't even you don't want to. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I like we did the art major together, so obviously like my goal with photography was to like be an artist, which was great for me at the time. But then I decided to like shoot weddings for about a year after I finished, and when it was great, but it wasn't great most
yeah,
of the time. Um,
yeah.
and I just didn't love it,
Well,
and I was just like, this is no. I realized that like my passion wasn't there, and I think even if I hadn't decided to go down the like performing arts path now, I probably still wouldn't be photographing, which I feel like a little bit horrible saying because like I did put all of this energy and effort into it, and all of my teachers put effort into me doing it, and I feel like I've kind of thrown that away. But having said that, like I said before, I did get a lot out of it, so it wasn't a waste of time. But
well, it's also hard because like I mean I like the amount of times on my podcast I always spout like trying to find that thing you really want to do and actually following that and like I mean you did that though like
yeah,
you had a passion you interest and you followed it like that in itself is like an amazing thing because you got to learn and you got to do something that made you happy
yeah,
and
totally.
and regardless, like even now, if your attitudes change, like you've still had those experiences, and like even now, I think about uni because someone I've had people still ask me like, so is it like worth it? And I think like, well, yes, because I think about how I was like making images and like using a camera and photography and everything like at the beginning and how much it's changed now. Not just like changed how I take a picture, but like the layers around that of like okay like well what do I want to say with it and like all those
Yeah,
things, you know what I mean?
totally.
Like I felt like that there was definitely like they helped with critical thinking. Like most days we went in and had to show work and present and then like talk with each other about the photos and critique them and that like I like that stuff I found so beneficial.
Yeah, totally. I realized I found a novel that I'd read while we were studying, and I was like, maybe I'll reread this. I remember it being like really interesting, and I couldn't even get like 5 pages into it because the language was so loaded, and my brain now is wired in such a different way that I don't understand things like really interesting. Just like my way of viewing the world has changed quite drastically since we finished there. So that was interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I photographed weddings for like a year. We only did like 8 or 9, I think, in total, but that was enough. And I was about halfway through that year, and I literally was just sitting on Instagram one day, and I got an ad for a performing arts school, and I was like, that's interesting. So I just saved it, and then like tried to kind of ignore it, but then I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I was like,
yeah,
okay. At this point, I was 22. Um, And I was like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to do it now. So I just applied, and I was like, well, if they don't accept my application, then that's that. That's over. Which is probably not the truth, but that's what I thought.
yeah.
And then they accepted my application, and so I went and auditioned and spent, 6 or 7 hours doing all these different dance styles, and then I sung a song for them at the end, and I felt so good after that day that I was like, okay, this is this is such a dramatic turning point, and then getting the call being like, "We want you to come and be at our school." I was like, "Okay, this is a real thing that I'm actually doing." And I think because it was such a long time coming, like I still have been doing it since I was like really young, so um, it just took me a little bit longer than some people, and I had to kind of give up on the dream in order to realize how much I wanted to do it. And I'm so glad that I did that because like I look at these kids that I'm at school with, and some of them are like 18, and I turned 25 in a month. Um, and I don't know how they do it because I could not have done what I'm doing now when I was out of high school. Like absolutely no way. So mm,
Damn. Especially like when you like think about it, that jump from high school to uni is such like a big one.
yeah, and I know that I wouldn't have coped because it's so full on. Like we're doing like 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. Um, and some of the things that they ask of you are like really like intense, and you have to really push yourself like physically and mentally and
Yeah.
emotionally, and like it's really hard. So I just, yeah, I absolutely would
Yeah.
not have coped when I was 18, and so I'm glad that I took the time to like work on myself and learn a lot about the world and people and myself and everything, and that's given me a much better
Yeah.
understanding of how to go about doing this course and then turning it into a career. So it's
Yeah.
really good in that way.
That's awesome. So with like with the course, like how long is it?
It's 3 years.
It's a, yeah, three. And what sort of stuff? Because I assume there's a bunch of stuff like you would learn that sort of like with photos, people are like, well, what more could you specify on? It's like can
Yeah.
be very like, so like I suppose yeah. What sort of things do they teach you there?
Well, it's a dance focused course, um, but we do singing and acting as well. So we try to cover as many um, styles and facets of the industry as we can in order to like be the most employable that we can be, because
Yeah.
like vision of the school is to get you employed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah,
Being,
that's a good goal. I like that.
um, obviously, performing arts is not super easy to get into, and it is very competitive and all that kind of thing. So yeah, so we do lots of everything. Like we do a lot of ballet, and we do jazz, lyrical, contemporary, hip hop, tap, Latin,
That's
ballroom, as well as like musical theatre, singing and acting, and then we also do a little bit of like other things within that as well. So
yeah.
yeah, they try to cover as much as they can.
Damn. So what's it like then for your body? Like, is that a radical change? Like, I mean, going from because that sounds like high intensive. Like, I don't think I've ever even tried like half of those like dance styles. Like, I
Yeah.
can't even. My body probably doesn't even know how to move like that. I wish it did. But like, what was that like? Because you had been doing photos. Had you been doing like anything sort of like in the back? Oh yeah, you had. Well, I mean, you had your dance. You were you still dancing in your dance company?
Yeah,
For
but I've been doing like maybe 6 hours of dancing a week, um, and just at like my normal community school, so it wasn't really high intensity or wasn't asking a lot, I guess.
yeah,
Or also, I realize now like I wasn't putting as much into it as I could have, so my fitness levels were not ideal when I
yeah,
like got into the course, and so first term of first year was like a massive shock to the system. I've never been in so much pain
oh
in
my
my life.
gosh, I can't.
Um, but now, like, I'm really noticing now how much stronger I am, and also um, things like a couple of months ago I broke a toe, so I was out of class for 6 weeks,
Damn.
and
How'd you break your toe?
I just walked into a table
Ah,
because we're really coordinated. So
damn. 6 weeks out of
yeah,
six.
and like 6 weeks is a really long time.
Yeah,
Feels like a really long time to be out of action. And so I was trying to do as much as I could to keep my fitness up, but like, you can't do cardio because you can't. Like there's no, you can't do anything when you break a toe. um,
Yeah.
but then like after that, I was seeing a physio, and he was giving me all these exercises, like rehab and stuff to do. And the difference between my strength now and my strength before I broke my toe is like huge in terms of it's improved a lot because it's had to,
Yeah.
which has been really interesting to like watch my body improve quickly.
Yeah. Well, even like in the like just in the different ways it can be changed that you're not even aware that it can. Does that make that's like such a roundabout way of saying it? But like like I mean, everyone's always like, oh, I could probably like get stronger, but until you actually do, you don't realize like what your body is capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. We my director Trish, she has this thing that she says um sometimes when she's yelling at us, which is don't you want to know how good you can be? And I think that's so like sums it up in terms of strength and in terms of performance ability and success, like
Yeah.
all of those things.
Like self motivation.
Mm.
Like,
Um,
don't you want to be the best you can be?
yeah,
Because I know
absolutely.
you can be.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and like it is, but having said that, it is really hard on your body.
Yeah.
Like,
It changed. It's a whole lifestyle, right?
absolutely.
Because like, I mean, yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk because I mean,
Like, I'm very lucky in that I've always been naturally a really skinny person, so I've never like gone out of my way to exercise very much. Like I hated PE in
yeah,
high school and, opted out of school sport and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But now like I've realized, especially last year, like I realized how unfit I was, um, and how much work I had to do and how hard I actually had to work in order to perform things to like the standard that was required. Because I
yeah,
didn't realize like you kind of like you look at ballet and you're like it's so pretty and flowy, but actually it's like really really difficult. Like all of your muscles are
yeah.
switched on at all times.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
it's uh,
It's like it's like when they say they how hard it is to make it look easy. It's like the reason it looks so flawlessly beautiful is because they've like trained so hard for
yes,
it. Like I can't even imagine the amount of like concentration and stuff that goes into like a technique of a
yeah,
spin, which is like
yeah,
amazing. Like, oh, I've like, or have always been like so envious of dancers because I've like, I just wish I knew how to move my body nicely,
yeah,
and like like, I mean, I it's sort of like how I see singers like really good singers. You just see them open their mouth, and it's like, how can you like make that noise? Like, do you get like this do you get like this weird like energy from like dancing? You know what I mean? Like,
that's absolutely that's totally an element of it. Like it's interesting with my singing teacher who is classically trained, so she's like an opera singer. She can do that. She just like will demonstrate something, and I'm like, what do you mean? But she talks about like the flow of your breath and all that kind of thing, and I absolutely believe that there is a specific kind of energy flow that you have to have when you're performing in kind of any style or scenario,
yeah,
in order to perform it well. Because if you cut off your energy flow, then it's not. Does that make sense?
no, it makes me think of it makes me think of Dance Moms when like Abby's like, see, look at Maddie, she's just like it's like pouring out of her, and then you can look at other dancers and you sort of just like see the steps in their mind or in their, you know what I mean? And it's sort of like they're like there, there's like there is a difference like for someone just like feeling it out and letting it flow out of them as opposed to being like, okay, I gotta do this and this and this. I mean I don't know because I'm not a dancer, so I'm just saying, but like
But
I'm just
totally. And I feel like finding that flow is really, really hard, especially when you're like, I feel like so often what we mostly see on social media is people who have just gone and taken a class and then they film it at the end of class and then that's the video, except in America because they're like that's a whole other situation. But like I earlier on, I remember being like, well, I didn't get that perfect, so it's not good. But now I can, take a combo that I've learnt in class and be like, that is what it is, and maybe my energy flow wasn't there the whole time, but um, you can like work on it, and then obviously you learn the steps, so you know the steps, so it's much easier to put that kind of thing on top of that. That makes sense?
Yeah. No, yeah.
Hmm.
No, I get that. And so, how far are you through your course now? Because did you take how?
I'm
Oh, sorry, you go.
just past
Oh,
halfway.
yeah. So how? Because how
Yeah.
long was the break in between photos and
Um,
the applying? Do you think?
well, I had 2 years of like not
Oh,
studying, so
yeah.
I had yeah.
I love that though. I love that you took that leap out into deciding to study dance full time. Like that's amazing. I mean, especially when you go from doing art pictures and making pictures that are really like um specific to like what you have to say, and then transitioning into then like commercializing that like aesthetic style and focusing on that. It's like it's
Yeah,
hard.
absolutely. And I think that's actually a really interesting point because I feel like with photography, everything was like I could say exactly what I wanted to say and um, all that kind of jazz. But then when you want to be employed as a performer, sometimes you have to say things that you don't necessarily agree with
Mm.
or be in situations that you don't agree with. And there's a lot of one of my friends at school and I have conversations about this all the time in terms of performers of color not getting chosen
Mm.
over like okay, we had this really interesting conversation the other day um because I was talking about like musical theater because that's like kind of my goal and all that kind of thing, and my friend essentially said that it's going to be a lot easier for me to get roles over her because she's Filipino, so just the way that it works, which like makes me like feel like physically ill. um but like that is the way that it is, but then I'm like, well, what can I do to change it? And it's like there's all these elements of the performing arts industry that are like really really gross.
Yeah. Well, and even like before you had touched on her, I was thinking like auditions as well is like a whole nother ball game. It's already like hard, and then they make it harder by adding on all these like like not I suppose sometimes not even unconscious biases towards like certain communities or ethnicities. It just like makes it even like worse and worse.
Yeah, like you guys can't see my face, but I'm a white person, so I'm like average height. I have brown hair. Like I'm pretty normal looking, apart from like the tattoos that I have, which is like a whole other thing. But yeah, so like it would be like me and another person who is just as talented as I am. Like I could potentially get chosen over them for no other reason than my skin tone, which is like really upsetting.
It sort of just makes you be like, but why though? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
I think now, especially with like the direction that Broadway is heading, and obviously Broadway like defines the world in a lot of ways in like
yeah,
theater and performing arts. Things like Hamilton and stuff like that. A lot more. There's a lot more discussion about it. Um, so it'll be interesting to see the direction that it goes in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So
yeah.
mm,
And I suppose as at least we're talking about it and being consciously aware
yeah,
is just I think that's just it's just important as well.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
talking about auditions, have you been have? Oh, I suppose no, you wouldn't really have to have auditioned lately. Have you?
Well, so we have an agency as like part of our school, um, and I was really lucky that I got offered a spot at the start of the year, which was like
Yeah.
amazing and super exciting. And then the world fell to pieces. um, so there's been a few like online submissions. I think like self-taping, so like videoing yourself and sending it in is going to be the norm
Yeah.
for the next who knows how long. Um, which is kind of a bummer because like I was like nervous but also excited to go and do proper auditions
Yeah.
and but I mean
And I always find like coming from my experience doing like year 12 drama, I like getting the anxiety beforehand always was like helpful in like pumping it up. And I wonder if it has like so how do you get ready then, I suppose, to audition that way?
in terms of filming myself, is that
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, like how different is it to
Um,
the in-person one?
well, I don't really know. My only experience with big auditions is like mock auditions and what I've heard from people that I know who have gone to big
Yeah.
ones. And most of the time, it's for a dance call anyway. You're in a big room and you all learn the choreography, and then you get split into groups, and then you do it in your groups, and then they pick you. And if they don't pick you, then you go home and you've just wasted your whole day. Um, I mean, now it's I've like we've got like I have a show reel, so I've got like clips of me dancing
Yeah.
that we like send
Oh,
to
okay.
companies.
For some reason in my mind, I was like, they would. I suppose that would be so hard for them to be like, "Can you learn this dance?" and then you try learn it.
Well, it depends. I think now what's going to happen a lot of the time is they'll look at your show reel and then they'll go, "Yes, we want you," or "No, no, we don't." And then if they do want you, then they'll go, "Can you learn this from this video?" And then, um, or can you learn this 16 bars of a song, or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
No, that makes sense.
Like part of me was really excited about going to auditions,
Yeah.
and because I feel like it makes you better when you have that adrenaline.
Yeah.
Whereas like when I'm in my back room at home and I'm just like surrounded by furniture and recording myself on my phone, it's like not the
Yeah.
same.
I mean, in the setting, you're with your competition, and you kind of like you like kind of get that energy vibe, and then are constantly competing to like beat it, and like just
Yeah,
be louder, but
absolutely.
by dancing.
And then like if you go and do like a singing audition, you've got the creators of the show right in front of you, and like that's horrifying.
Yeah.
But when you're like just filming yourself to send to someone, like not
Yeah.
not really. So we'll see what happens once Corona's over.
Yeah. That'll be
But who
fun.
knows?
And so with dancing, because I've seen you online, of course, like on Insta, like share videos and stuff. Do you find you do just like dance a lot? Like, I mean, if someone was to ask me, do I take like a lot of photos or talk to myself a lot, I would be like, yes, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Do you do that with dance? Like, is it as incorporated into your life as much? Yeah, I suppose.
Yes, no, I get what you mean. Um, yes, I think it manifests in different ways in terms of like when I was in uni the first time and had that 2 years of not knowing what I was doing with myself. Um, it would only kind of manifest in I've always had this like inner dialogue that is constantly dancing in my brain, which I find really weird to describe to people, and I've like
I
never.
love that. Never
But
heard that.
like, if I hear music, it's like even if I'm not thinking of anything specific, there's always movement happening in my brain. And my toes do this pretty much all the time. My dad, for example, he's a musician. His fingers are always moving,
Totally.
like in because he plays saxophone, so his fingers are always moving in the fingering of the saxophone, and that my brain always has movement going on in it,
That's
which
amazing.
sometimes makes it hard to sleep.
Restless
But
legs, literally,
now,
just like kicking around.
I like twitch all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but like now, I find myself choosing to turn on music and dance a lot more often, just in like my own time. And I really love contemporary and lyrical, so that's kind of something that I've been working on more, and just like I'll just like find a piece of music that I love and we'll put it on and just like turn the lights off and like dance around my room. I think that's interesting actually because I remember when we started at photography school and they were like, the way that you see the world is going to totally change. And I was like, that's interesting because we were looking at light a lot, obviously. And I never had that. Like, I never looked at light first.
Yeah.
I think I'm like quite a sound oriented person, which makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, just that didn't come naturally to me, which I think was a big reason why could give it up so easily.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't give up performing because it just comes so naturally to me and it's like ingrained in my being. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, even when we were studying, you were incorporating it more and more into like dance, like as we went on, more and more into your pictures as well.
yeah,
You know, like movement became a big not a didn't become bigger or more important, but like I suppose you just like it was always like a focus there.
yeah, absolutely. Especially in like my final project, and I really, really enjoyed doing those in terms of like the performative um, elements of those. It's actually funny. I want to go on a tangent for just one second.
Go,
I
do it.
was thinking about that project the other day. I was like kind of half asleep, which is funny because that's what the project is about.
Yeah. So for context, in third year of uni, we had to choose a photography major, which is commercial, documentary, which was photojournalism, I think they were calling it, but documentary, and art. And we majored in art, and our main focus was to develop a folio of work across the year that was just, yeah, an exploration of an idea that we had, and we just like got free reign with it and just got to make whatever we did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
just,
so mine was about like that moment between being awake and being asleep, which is something I've always been really fascinated by. It's where like your most interesting and most lucid dreams happen. It's like when you twitch in your sleep, and it's when you can like when you get what's the sleep paralysis? It's
oh
all that.
yes.
Um, yeah, so I was thinking about that the other day, and I actually had a random idea for an image I could make, and I was like, oh, that'd be funny. And then I thought to myself, that would be a really um, in order to create that image, I would have to put myself in a really like fearful position,
Yeah.
and then my brain went, yeah, because the project is about fear, and I was like, why am I only now having this realization?
This hallelujah moment.
like like 4 years later, I couldn't believe it. So I'm like tempted to email
I love
our
that.
teacher and be like, I don't know if you remember me. This is a project that I did, and I've just now had this epiphany about it. And I'm really sorry that I never understood anything that you were talking about
Oh my gosh.
because I didn't even understand what my project was about, and now I do.
I love that.
So maybe one day I'll pick up a camera again and
Yeah.
revisit it. I don't know.
Well, maybe like I mean I don't know what this idea is, but like imagine I could so see you becoming like a performative artist. You know, like
Yeah,
kind of just like combining the two of just
yeah.
like oh sick as exhibition. I'm like already seeing it all for you. It's all like shadows and oh anyway silhouettes.
The path that I probably would have taken if I decided to like pursue it more. And I still might, the good thing about photography is that you can do it kind of for your whole life. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, it was just really funny that I don't know, maybe I've just like emotionally matured and I kind of understand myself a bit more now. And I'm like, oh, that's
yeah.
that's what that was trying to tell me.
Yeah, well, even like especially just yeah, like exactly that. Having that gained perspective and also being removed from that time, like, and being able to see it with these like, okay, so now I'm not like emotionally drenched in it and like thinking about how like at the time we were we had to think about it like a majority of the time, like
Yeah,
what photos we're gonna take, how we're gonna say it, and so you're in that feeling and that funk, and even that like creates a different perspective that you
mm,
won't have until like you're removed from it. So
And I really, I really love what I ended up presenting. And like I did a soundscape along with it and stuff. So I was really happy with the work that I put up. But now I've realized that it could go so much further than I took it. But I think that's part of like what I was saying before. The passion just like wasn't there enough for
Yeah.
me to put in the extra work. Whereas now it's really interesting comparing myself studying now to myself studying 5 years ago. Um,
Mm.
because I put in the extra work and like I'm always thinking about it and I'm always doing research on something and I've got like my notebook out all the time and like I practice singing like every day, I'm like just like really I'm so dedicated to it and I'm realizing
Uh,
now that I really, really wasn't. I'm sorry to all of our teachers, but it was a bit hopeless.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are able to. I'm glad you're at that place now though, where you can at least like be like, wow, no, I'm actually super passionate about that. Because I
Yeah,
love that. I'm like so about people finding their passions and
yeah.
actually following them. I like that.
Mm.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Yay.
I'm proud of me too. And
Yeah.
like I said before, I am glad that it has happened this way because like I might not have a very long career as a dancer because I am a little bit older, but as long as I look after my body and you can sing until you die, so that's kind of the plan. It's also really hard when social media and everyone else is telling you that like you have to be 18 in order to be a dancer, But like I
Mm.
heard a story the other day about a guy in England who was a nurse until he was 27 and then now he's on the West End like all the time. So
Oh wow.
I'm like, it's like so stupid to put a time limit on yourself like that. And I
Yeah,
was
so true
really,
actually.
really stressed about it for a long time. And I think only this year have I been like, it's fine. Like, I'm taking my time and I'm only 24. Like, I've still got a long,
Yeah.
long
Yeah, no,
ahead of me, hopefully, touch wood.
yeah.
Don't get me
Yeah.
corona, please.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah. So I'm sad for younger me, I think, because I really, really felt like I'd given up. And I think it was also hard because like I went to a private school and it was just not a thing that people did. And I didn't have anyone there going, no, you should definitely, go for that because you could do it. Like I didn't have anyone doing that. Everyone was like, well, I'm going to be a doctor and a lawyer and blah, blah. So like I went to the careers counselor and she was like, what about teaching? And I was like, no,
Mm,
like and
oh
it's
my
really
gosh.
hard being in that environment where no one is telling you that it is an option. So that was weird. But anyway, there's an absurd amount of pressure on younger people to figure it out, which is so stupid. Like my brother left high school, I think at the end of year 11, and he has been self-employed since then, like doing what he loves and making,
Yeah.
not always making a lot of money, but now he's like reputable in his field and everyone like wants to work with him and stuff, which is like amazing. So I think
Yeah.
I just think high school is so dumb and terrible.
Yeah. You're like asking people who haven't even properly been out in the real world to make a decision that's meant to define the path for the rest of their life. But
Yeah, and also their hormones are going insane. They don't know who they are. They don't know anything about anything. Like it's so much.
because you went straight from high school to uni as well, didn't you?
Yes, which I think did not suit me at all. I think it was fine, like we've talked about, like my path was
Yeah.
all good, but I think it would have been really good for me to have like gotten a good job. Like I couldn't, like nowhere would hire me, and I was so anxious that I like couldn't keep a job. Like I just like looking at jobs and then crying all the time, and it was just terrible. But then like actually one of the things that really helped me was I got a retail job, and my manager was like incredible and really supportive and like really good at putting me out of my comfort
Yeah.
zone, like in a safe
Yeah.
way. Like all growing up, I had people who were like, just do it, and would like throw me in the deep end, and then I would just have a panic attack and like crumble and
Damn.
die.
Yeah.
Whereas she was really good at being like, here you go, like little pushes that I needed. And it like, that job gave me so much confidence. And it, which is funny because I got that at the end of uni. All
Oh.
through uni, I'd been this like
Oh
anxious
no.
mess and I didn't know how to do anything. So it's just funny how things kind of work
Yeah.
out and what helps you, like, and what can help you that you maybe don't realize will actually be really beneficial. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? I just think it's funny that, like, I went through all of uni and we were always looking at these, like, really intense concepts and, teachers were always pushing us to do all these really intense things. And, like, we went overseas and it was nuts,
Intense.
stuff. All of that just kind of made me shrink into myself more, I think. And then like I got this retail job and I was like, oh, okay, and this is like how I can, start to be more outgoing and like now I'm like a different person, so and I think that also like helped me to find the confidence to go and study performing and stuff because that was a lot of the reason why I didn't do it in the first place was that I was so afraid of it and afraid of failing and afraid of people judging me and all that kind of thing. So yeah,
God bless that woman.
I know she was the best. She was actually yes was incredible. And now we have a terrible manager, but that's
Oh no.
fine. I mean,
Damn.
but it's amazing like the people that come into your life and help you so much that you wouldn't kind of consider.
Have you met many people like that, do you think?
Um, well, it's funny because like at the time when I was in high school, I had this theater teacher who I really admired. Um, but looking back now, she never really gave me the support that I needed, especially like, I'd go into an audition for a school show and I would like lose my mind. Like I would just freak out and not be able to do anything. And so she just like wouldn't give me a role. Instead of sitting me down and being like, hey, I really want to give you an opportunity, but whatever. And she also knew that that was what I wanted to pursue and never really gave me the time of day about it,
Oh.
I guess, which is like really disappointing looking back on that now, and also probably a reason why I was so anxious.
Yeah.
um, but actually now, like, my daughter at school is one of those people, and she really wants me to. She like really believes that I can succeed in whatever I want to do, and she always she's always saying to me like, when you first came in for that audition, I was just obsessed with you, and I knew I fell in love with you,
Oh.
and I knew that I wanted to represent you and all this stuff. So it's really awesome to have someone like that behind me. And I think this year especially, I've felt very supported by her. Um, yeah, and like having someone that goes, you can do that. Like she said to me at the start of the year, she was like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to do musical theatre." And she was like, "Do you want to be in the ensemble?" And I was like, "Well, like yeah." And she was like, "No." She said to me, she was like, "You're a leading lady," and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like no,
Oh.
and having her be like really high up, in the
Yeah.
industry and
Fuck
you
yes.
know, admired and all that kind of thing. So having someone like that say that to me was really like a massive turning point for me. So because you can believe in yourself all you want, but that only gets you so
Yeah,
far.
yeah, yeah. It's always like an extra validation when it comes from someone like you have a high regard to. You know what I mean? Like,
It's also interesting because I feel like it's given me um, an excuse to be selfish for a while.
yeah,
I don't know that I've ever been very good at because I feel like I've always made excuses.
yeah.
But now, I'm like, no, this is what I want. This is what I'm doing to get it. So,
Fuck yes.
which is nice. I feel like 16-year-old me would be really, really happy about it. So that's good. Yeah.
Would you say was there maybe a reason why you were very timid? Do you think, or do you just think that's just like you were just
No, I don't know. I think like my parents are very quiet people. Like they're both musicians, but they're not, massively outgoing. Like we don't have a loud family. I think, yeah, I don't really know. I have thought about this like a lot. Because I was like quite a successful kid in primary school, and then I got to high school and I kind of went, oh God. But having said that, like I was still like quite an anxious kid in primary school. So I don't know. I think like once I become comfortable in a place, I become more outgoing. But I think I never got there in high school. There was like too many people all the time, and it was not like a safe
Yeah.
place for me at all in high school. Like nowhere except in the music department by myself.
Yeah.
um, when I was really young, like when I was just starting to go to primary school and kindergarten and all that kind of thing, I was told I was gifted a lot.
Mm.
It is a really bad thing to say to a kid. Okay, well, I'm special and I'm smart.
Yeah.
Which, like, yes, I am special and smart, but also, like, when you think you are, and then someone turns around and goes, "No, you did that wrong," you go, "Oh."
What do you mean though? I'm smart.
I think that happened to me quite a bit as a kid.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really know. And then, like, yeah, high school was just like a really tough time, and I've never been loud, and I think being quiet. I saw being quiet as being a really bad thing
Mm.
because I like would never be given opportunities and
Oh.
unless I stood up and went, I want that, which was a really hard thing for me to do. I was never good at that. So I think now I am able to do that, which is good. And that's like helped me a lot now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you just have to be patient with yourself and um,
And also
allow
be. Oh no, you go.
allow yourself room to grow. And I think a lot of the time I was just like, nah, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like working, like constantly working on myself and I'm more aware and yeah, give myself space to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is really important.
Yeah. Love that. Especially like, and like, it's also like going easy on yourself as well. Like, it's so easy to like hold yourself. I mean, I still do it all the time. Of like being like, like, why are you not up here? When it's like,
Yeah,
but hold on a second. Just because I'm here doesn't mean anything less. Like, it's all a process and you just got to go with it. Like, making
yeah,
yourself an anxious mess. Like,
yeah.
doesn't help. I get it.
You can't control it, but
Yeah, no, yeah, I understand. On,
working yourself up is like never a good thing to do.
yeah, just.
And I'm really good at it.
No, I totally get it. So, what's the future look like for you, Myra? I suppose, what do you want for yourself? I think that's a better question.
Yeah. Um, I really, in my like ideal life situation, I'd like to work in Melbourne a bit once I finish studying and like do some shows here, depending on like what opportunities there are and stuff like that. And, my partner and I are also talking about like maybe going to London for a little while. I don't know if it would be on a permanent basis or just like for a year or for 6 months. Or like who knows? It depends on how much work I get. But like theatre in Melbourne can only go so far, which I think I've finally come to terms with. And I don't know that Broadway is where I'm at yet.
Yeah.
So, and I really love the West End, and we went to London last year, and I love it there, and I think it's beautiful, and the community there just feels a lot nicer than Broadway does to an extent. But yeah, I'd like to like work in London and audition and train there. Um, but I also am kind of open to anything that the universe throws at me.
Love
Anything positive. Anyway, nothing negative, please.
that. No, thank you. Well, that's like
Yeah, it's such an interesting task to do this. Like it's really
Yeah.
interesting to like talk about yourself. About
Yeah.
kind of good though,
Uh,
it's like therapy.
yeah. Yeah. It does. I always feel like I'm trying to over explain myself, but like as simple as it is, it's just like interesting to hear these stories from people.
Yeah,
Just being like
absolutely.
you. Um, do you listen to many podcasts?
I've been trying to lately, like one of my favorite bands just released one, but now they've released like 16 episodes and I'm like, oh God,
Oh,
I can't
damn.
keep up with that.
Yeah. One of the things about COVID definitely like helped like it just like boomed the amount of content like
Yeah.
online, like everyone's home and they're making stuff or consuming stuff. Like the amount of stuff I have watched like like there was a time where I was like just consuming so much content that I like for a week and a bit afterwards I like wasn't watching movies. I wasn't even like I was just like I just can't mentally take it. My brain's kaput. It's fried.
Yeah, absolutely. I've watched so much Netflix. Because I feel like I always have to be doing two things at once, which is so stupid. But podcasts I find really, it's like reading a book. Like I just get distracted really quickly. So I like watching things a lot more because I'm listening and viewing. I guess I've been watching a lot of more foreign things, so I have to really like pay attention. Really
Yeah.
good
So
for my brain.
yeah. I used to always turn on subtitles just so it would be like, okay, now I have to like read that as I watch it, so it's like double hooked in. It's easy to get lost in the swarm of content.
Yeah, sometimes I'll be like sitting and watching Netflix, and then I'll be like on my phone at the same time. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is so stupid. Like I'm just dividing my attention completely unevenly and like not gaining anything from anything that I'm doing. It's so
Yeah, not truly absorbing any of the information.
exactly.
My God. I like-
I also made the mistake of getting TikTok, and now I hate myself.
I am such a hypocrite because I did too. I got it 2 days ago. But I will say, I like spent 2, 3 hours giggling in my bed watching them. And I had a great time. I was literally just like,
There's actually so much brilliant content on there that I'm just like, is this a waste of my time? No.
no. People are so funny. I don't understand how they can come up with these
It's
things.
amazing.
Uh, it's quality. I was thinking of what I could ask you in terms of like your dancing and stuff. How have you gone with filling your time?
Well, when it all first started, we were going into holidays. So we just went into holidays as normal because we run on like the normal school kind of calendar. So we had 2 weeks off and then we had another week off. And then they were like, okay, so it looks like we're going online. And we were all like, oh, okay. They were like, it'll probably be 4 weeks. So like, don't worry about it. Like it'll be fine. What a joke. So we started classes on Zoom and then we did 11 weeks of classes on Zoom, which was really draining. Um, and there was a okay, so um, basically you like log on and everyone's in their little Zoom boxes and everyone's like made a space in their house um, to dance in, whatever that may be. And then most of the time we just do like a little combo or we do like a technical exercise or things like that. And the teacher would just do it, and then we would learn it, and then we'd go, sorry, your internet cut out. Can you please repeat that entire thing?
Oh no.
um, so we didn't really do any singing because that's not really possible. Like I've been doing my one-on-one singing lessons, but we haven't done any like group things, and also acting's hard.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of theory last term. Um, and then this term,
Damn.
so then we had 3 weeks off, and during that 3 weeks, I just tried to, I think, like I said earlier, I broke a toe during
Mm.
that time. So I
Damn.
was sitting out for 6 weeks, which was like even more painful because I would just like roll out of bed and sit at my desk in my pajamas and watch everyone else.
Oh, that's so depressing.
um, but that actually I think was a really good kind of reset for me because it meant that I could just kind of go back to basics and I was just taking notes and observing and I had to kind of sit in my brain, which sucked, but actually has been really good for me now that I like look back at that. Um,
Yeah.
and then so I did like a lot of over the break. I did a lot. I've been doing a lot of like strengthening work and rehab for my injury, which is like so stupid because it was one toe.
I love it.
um, and I've just been like spending a lot of time with my family and the like our pets and yeah.
It's like back to basics. It was so easy when the world was like active and like everything was happening to get so like pulled us like get caught up in just like everything else it is.
Mm. I found it interesting that while like when I finish class at like 3 o'clock or whatever, I'm still in that mindset. So I can go and write my notes down or go and do my singing practice or go and do whatever. Whereas when I finish in real life, um, and then I have to drive for 45 minutes in traffic, by the time I get home, I don't want to do anything. I just want to cook dinner and go to bed,
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. I've gotten a lot of extra work done during this time because I've been able to just keep myself going throughout the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder after this if there'll be like a crack in that 9 to 5 style of like lifestyle because it's so exhausting when you think about it all and like all the things that add up like the commuting and everything
Absolutely.
impacts like your energy and everything like hopefully and also just working all day to like earn money to pay for your house to sleep in to then go to work like sounds like it's like a prison. That sounds
Yeah.
awful.
It's so
And so like
capitalism, right?
making it yeah. So hopefully making it easier and finding these alternatives will hopefully make it less prevalent and actually like make the um quality of living better
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. It'll be very interesting to see. Um, I have a bad feeling that society will just go back to normal afterwards, but maybe this will go on long enough that everything will have to change. Like, who knows?
It feels like such a weird rocky like
Mm,
time that you would be like you would hope like something good would come from all like this chaos that's coming out because half the time it's like bad stuff's happening that's just bad and it probably won't go anywhere good and then the other stuff it's like it's bad it's happening but hopefully this will lead to a better place, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Mm,
But it's like I don't know. It's it sounds so naive to say to be like I'm like I hope it gets better.
yeah. Mm. I think the naive thing would be to say that it will get better. I think it's just the hopeful thing to say is that I hope that it will get better.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note we might wrap it up here. This has been an interesting experiment
Yeah.
of like recording this way because it's
Mm,
like it's just different in person.
yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
glad I finally got to talk to you. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Me too.
like, on the podcast and just in general in the first
Yeah.
place.
You know. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, though.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. I'm glad that we got to do it. I've got a lot out of it actually, so
Yo, I'm excited to like re-listen to it.
I
And
think I will have to listen to it back and like take notes.
of the things.
Yeah.
It's honestly it is funny like going back listening to them again because we've been talking for a long time, so I'm sure
Yeah.
like we won't even remember what we've said for half of it. No, but thank you very much for coming on and trying this out with me.
No problem.
Is there anything you would like to plug? Like, would you like to share your Instagram or anything?
My Instagram is at myra.cd. I kind of don't really have anything else. I have a website, but it's pretty outdated. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
fine.
yeah, no, I just want to say thank you again for having me because this is really awesome. And I'm really glad. Maybe in 5 years we'll have to do another one.
Yes, we will.
We'll see where we're at by then.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it'll be. Oh, who even knows what the world will look like
You can
then.
do a Where Are They Now series.
That would actually be so fun though. That would be so good. I'm so down. Yay, Myra, you're the best. Thank you again for being on. I hope you, the listener, enjoyed listening. Amazing. I wish you the best, Myra. I'm outroing now. Thanks for listening. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.